I'm not sure you've realized this yet, but your brain is constantly cooking up stories. A story about your identity, who you are, who you're not, what you can or cannot achieve, what your personality is like, who you can make connections with, and so on. The limiting beliefs that you hold so dear might also just be a story your mind made up to make sense of this world and prevent you from getting into situations that are potentially deadly. These stories are powerful because they're deeply embedded in our subconscious and they influence our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without us even realizing it. It's kind of like an algorithm or an operating system that keeps us running. And if you think about it, the whole idea of who you are, the core essence of your being, is also a story. You might not want to admit it, but it's true. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It makes a lot of sense from an evolutionary perspective. Thousands of years ago, our cave-dwelling ancestors had to stay vigilant and fight off predators to stay alive. And to do this, their caveman brains, which isn't much different from ours by the way, formulated a system of storytelling and seeking patterns that help them identify potential threats and take action to avoid them. The point is, there's a reason, a purpose behind our brains noticing patterns and making up stories. And it mostly has something to do with keeping us safe and in our lane. The problem is though, you can't always win in life by playing it safe. Actually, you'll rarely win in life by playing it safe all the time. In fact, to accomplish anything worthwhile, you're going to have to take risks. To become good at something, not just good, to be exceptional at something, you have to go beyond your comfort zone. You have to stop letting your brain's default setting dictate what you can or cannot do with your life. It's not easy, but it's possible. Taking control of your subconscious that's been left to function on autopilot mode for most of its life is hard. Here's another problem. Our brain is far from being perfect, no matter what anyone says. Because every bit of info we pick up from around the world is subject to some inherent biases. Human beings aren't rational. We're more emotional than anything else. And as good as our subconscious is in picking up patterns, it's not always very good at making sense of them. So, let's say you try to pick up a new skill, say cooking for instance. After trying a few times, your friends tell you that you aren't really good at it. You realize that they're telling the truth. So you get frustrated and quit. Then you try picking up another skill, let's say math, and you quit that too because it's too hard. The third time you try to learn something new, I don't know, maybe a musical instrument, let's say a guitar or a piano. Your brain would have already made up a story about how picking up new skills isn't for you. And you suck at everything you do because you give up. That's what you do. Even though the two skills you tried to pick up before, cooking and math, have nothing in common, your subconscious would have already made up a narrative about how you're bad at learning things based on your patterns. But here's the thing, that's a load of BS. In reality, even if you give up on 9 different skills, by the time you reach the 10th one, you might find something that piques your interest enough for you to keep going and get better at it. So what am I getting at? How do you become an expert at something? Well, to become an expert at something, the number one thing you need to do is find something you actually want to be good at. Let me repeat that. To become an expert at something, the number one thing you need to do is find something you actually want to be good at. And to do that, you have to rewire your brain by taking control of your thoughts. When doubt and disappointment are your constant companions, controlling how you think about yourself will change the narrative of your life. When you try to pick up a new skill, you will suck and you will feel frustrated and you want to quit. But if you can control those thoughts in that moment, you can ride out that initial feeling of frustration, anger, and disappointment and see the situation from an objective point of view. Because no matter how much you suck today, doing something repeatedly is only going to make you better, not worse. It's practically impossible to regress with practice, trust me. So if you've done the inner work and found something worthwhile, found something you're passionate about, and have a strong emotional connection, overcoming those humps of frustration and disappointment will be much easier. Having passion is like having a big fire inside you that keeps you going. It helps you stay motivated and keep trying even when the things get tough. Passion is what makes you enjoy what you're doing and helps you overcome any problems you face. So, how can you figure out what you're passionate about? Well, there's no one answer for everyone, but here are some questions you can ask yourself. What are you good at or interested in? What do you care about and want to achieve? What are the problems or things you want to fix or help with? What activities do you love so much that you forget about time when you're doing them? What makes you really happy and excited? Once you have some ideas, give them a try. Try out different things and see what makes you feel curious and happy. Pay attention to what challenges you and makes you want to get better. That's how you'll find your passion. The second thing you must do to become an expert is quite obvious: practice. But not just practice mindlessly, practice with intention. Back when I was a youngling with dreams in his eyes, I was pretty deep into competitive gaming. I used to play Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which back then was said to be the biggest and most popular competitive shooter, right after Counter Strike. I'm talking about 2009, 2010, during those times. So, besides playing the game for hours on end, I used to watch these highlight clips of the top 1% gamers playing in tournaments, traveling around the world, making money, and enjoying that sweet, sweet fame. And I'm not gonna lie, I used to imagine how awesome it would be to live a life like that. Back then, I made it my life's purpose to become a pro and compete in LAN events. And for the next 2 years, that's exactly what I did. I practiced getting good at that game by playing 6 to 8 hours every day, without exceptions. Sure, my parents were pissed off at me all the time, but I honestly didn't care. It felt like I had found my calling, and I'd be damned if I didn't answer it. Eventually, I did become a pro, maybe even among the top 1% in my country. And I did that in a fairly short period of time by practicing with intention. So my gaming sessions didn't just look like playing map after map after map, but also spending time alone, figuring out different strategies, figuring out different locations and how to best navigate them, how to use glitches to your advantage, how to coordinate better with your team, and studying how the great players use their techniques. The top 1% in the world by watching their videos and trying to emulate their playstyles. By practicing with intention, I was able to go past many, many people who had the early starter advantage. With 1000 hours of intentional practice, I was able to outperform many who has twice the playtime as me or more. I can say the same things about my other two skills that I'm allowed to be proud of: writing and video editing. I got good at those things not by just executing, but by collecting feedback and trying to improve myself. Whatever skill you're trying to improve, make sure you practice that with intention. So, if you're trying to become an ace chef, open your mind and learn how great chefs think and act. Don't spend all your time in the kitchen cooking. Cooking is important, yes, but you'd also want to learn how to get better along the way. If you're trying to become a math wizard, explore different ways how a problem can be solved. And if you're trying to become a great writer or a video editor, don't just write or edit one video after another. Think, Mark, think. How can you get better with every piece of content you write or video you edit? The third skill you need to become an expert is confidence. To become the top 1% in your field of expertise, you first have to believe that you can get there. And confidence is not just about believing in yourself, it's about believing in yourself enough to believe that others are wrong about you. Look, if you decide to go on this journey, you you really can't expect it to be a cakewalk. In the path, you're going to come across many people who will doubt you, tell you your pursuit is pointless, or try to project their fears onto you. It's during those times you must possess enough confidence to believe that they're the ones who are wrong. Surprisingly, the biggest obstacle to overcome is not other people, but your inner critic that always tries to tear you down. Other people and even your inner critic may not be wrong, however. They might be right in saying that your pursuit is meaningless and you should abandon it. But confidence is about acknowledging the fact that even though they might be right, you have the ability to prove them wrong and reach your goal. That's how you create a narrative about yourself. That's how you strengthen your internal locus of control. That's how you become a main character in your life and not stay as an NPC. And to build unshakable confidence in yourself, your abilities, you have to do two things. One, set goals and achieve them. Do it consistently. Basically, be a man of your word. Consistently is the key word here, because unless you set clear goals that you can achieve consistently, you're never going to become confident. The best way to do this is by setting both short term and long term goals. If your long term goal is running a half marathon, let's say, for the first time, you have to first set daily short term goals that prepare you to face that challenge. So let's say that you've never run before. In that case, your short term goals should involve some kind of running every day to build up that stamina. You can begin by running for 10 minutes daily. Once you start hitting that goal consistently, the 10 minutes you spend running will start to feel easy after a while. Next, you can set a goal for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and hit that goal consistently. Over time, you can switch out the time with distance and practice that with consistency. And in 3 to 6 months, you're ready for marathon day. You might not finish first place in your first attempt, but even finishing is no easy feat. Compete in enough marathons, and in a few years, you're an expert marathon runner in your city. See how that works? This principle works for any skill you want to master. Writing, editing, sports, competitive gaming, public speaking, whatever you can think of. You build confidence by doing, and you build up the most amount of confidence by doing the hard stuff that you're afraid of the most. The fifth thing you need to do is always keep a learner's mindset. No matter how good you become, you must never close your mind to learning something new. When you're at the top of your game and you know that you're at the top of your game, it's really quite easy to become arrogant or complacent because you think you know it all. But the truth is, becoming the top 1% is rather easy because the average person is average at everything they do in life. Most of us are so used to mediocrity from our own selves that we don't even stop to wonder if there's something we could get better at. Reaching the 1% is easy, and the real challenge begins only after you reach there. Even at the top of the game, you'll find many people that are leagues ahead of you. Think about it. How many people around you have a muscular physique where they're shredded, have six-pack abs and such? Less than 1%, right? Let's say you train hard and become a part of the 1% population. Do you think you'd be good enough to compete in bodybuilding contests? Even if you are good enough, do you think you'll be able to go pro and compete at Mr. Olympia? That's why you must never assume that you know everything or know too much. With a learner's mindset, you get to approach challenges and problems with a sense of curiosity and a willingness to experiment. And on the other hand, when you're too focused on staying in your lane or fear risking your reputation, you won't be as open to taking risks or trying innovative solutions. And last but not the least, celebrate your wins. Big or small, it doesn't matter. If you've accomplished something today, you deserve to celebrate. So give yourself a pat on the back and treat yourself to something nice. Sometimes we get so obsessed with the idea of delayed gratification that we forget that we are human, that we need to feel joy and excitement that comes from achieving something. Celebrating your wins is not just about reinforcing positive behaviors, but also reminding yourself that you matter and the journey that you're on matters. And even though you may or may not get everything you want by the end, you're sure as hell trying your best. So that's it for today. Like and leave a comment if you learned something from this video. I appreciate you all for sticking around till the end. Peace.